All right, let's get Facebook going here. We can start the show. Rocking and rolling. I see MBLE here is here to party. Me too. It's good to see. And we got 1 and 2. All right, welcome in, welcome in. It's Tuesday, the 25th. We are less than a month away to the NFL draft, and we are, free agency seems like 20 years ago. But time flies when you're having fun. I'm Nick Kendell, joined by Carl Dumler. Carl, how are you doing on this fine Tuesday evening?
I'm doing great, man. I was telling Scott before the show that had kind of a cool day. Had an organization tell us that they had a bunch of supplies, asked if our town could use some. Wow. And next thing we know, we have this giant semi show up. And they just kept emptying stuff out. And I'd say we had somewhere between like $70,000 to $100,000 worth of supplies.
Wow.
Just dropped off of like toilet paper, paper towels, food, hygiene products. It was crazy, man.
Wow. Well,
so
that's good to hear some good going out there. Yeah. It's I think all-time high out here in Seattle today. It got up to 70, which for March is unbelievable. But with that comes, we're supposed to get hail, heavy winds, and potentially tornadoes tomorrow, which if you are familiar with the Pacific Northwest, west side of Washington, Oregon, absolutely unheard of. So chaos. But we're here. My mother-in-law is supposed to get here Friday, and like the cherry blossoms like just reached peak today. And I'm really worried that the storm and the winds are going to just destroy all of those. But, we'll see. But, yeah, the cherry blossoms are like just driving around today. It was unbelievable seeing them explode everywhere.
Yeah, we had blizzard last week that, I mean, like it was pretty cool. I've never seen this before, but our back door, the entire back door was just snow.
Oh, wow.
So, like I had to break through it so our dogs could get in the backyard to use the bathroom. And we were without power for a while in town. And then the next day, like the day before that, it was 80 degrees, had the blizzard. Next day was 65. So it's the fun times of the Midwest. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't miss that. There's, some of those summer evenings, pretty great fall, crisp, but the volatile stuff, not for me. What is for me is our guy, David Mickelrath, coming in saying, good evening, Broncos country. Good to see you. David, hope you're doing well, coming in half an hour before the show even kicked off with the super chat. So we really appreciate that. And Cody W. in the house as well. And he's talking about the theme of the show today. He says, I could see bringing Von back for some depth. He's got good knowledge for what a lot of these teams like to do. Yeah, Von Miller. So Von Miller met on the golf course today with Kay Adams. Obviously an event going on. I saw Drake May was out there as well. He got a new wide receiver, a new toy today. Diggs got a crazy contract. The wide receiver market's nuts, dude. We had Von Miller on there. Said he's golfing with Brett Rippon and Brandon McManus and Cortland Sutton. And yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more, but do have the clip as well. But before even that, I mean, if Von Miller joins this Bronco team, Carl, where would he rank as far as the rushers go? Would he be like third, fourth?
I mean, it just depends on how much of a step Jonah Ellis takes.
Yeah, well, he's got that surgery this offseason.
Yeah, but he had a very surprising rookie season. I think he showed a few things that we didn't completely see at the college level. He all of a sudden was able to do at the NFL level. So if he takes that next step, Von could be number 4.
Wow.
But I probably right now comfortably put him at number 3.
Yeah, would that make him an underdog on this team? I mean, the second overall pick, a lot of big contracts, Super Bowl MVP, been on 2 different Super Bowl organizations and teams. I don't know if we could ever call Von Miller an underdog, but we do like underdogs here at Mile High Huddle.
That's right. And nothing beats March basketball. Bring the fun of a bracket to every game day by making entries on Underdog. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play now in your state. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? You can with Underdog.
Yeah, not a good tournament for underdogs, but it's always a good time to use Underdog. To play, choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats, such as points, assists, rebounds, and more. Underdog's got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Create entries to all basketball picks or mix and match across other sports. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into $1,000 just with your hoops knowledge.
Yeah, if your bracket's been busted like mine is, this is another way to keep interested in all these fun games that they're playing. So download the Underdog app and sign up now using the promo code MHuddle to unlock the special offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you sign up with the promo code MHUDDLE. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit.
Yeah. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, and 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona. And President of State Runner Dog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit ncbgambling.org. Arizona, 100-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call it 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. So thank you to Underdog. Yeah, the tournament's been a little boring. Sad to see my Iowa Hawkeye ladies get bounced already as well. But and also shout out to Juju Watson, a USC female basketball superstar. I mean, the face of females. I mean, maybe one of the faces of college basketball right now, along with like Flag out there in Duke. But yeah, she suffered that season-ending injury. So thoughts out to her, man. What a bummer. Glad she's getting compensated to play college ball. The Shiloh comes in. Vaughn, 1 year, $5 million, 15 to 20 million snaps per game. I'm in. Yeah, I think that's something that we'll get into it for sure. Where are you at on the? I mean, it's complicated for me. The amount and the compensation, and when the amount comes, matters for the Broncos. But as far as adding a veteran presence, a closer, so to speak, somebody who's know how to do it, I don't mind it, so to speak, but there are some other factors at play.
Yeah, if it's only $5 million, I can get on board with that. I'm going to guess that Von Miller is going to be looking for a little bit more than that. I get that some of the market has dried up. At the same time, Diggs today getting what, $23 million a year? So there's still some teams
on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's still a lot of money out there. Mm-hmm. I was talking to a Patriots fan the other day about this. And they're like, man, I don't know why, the Patriots, they haven't really spent a whole lot. I'm like, well, they're being smart because there's not a whole lot of great players to pay for right now. That's part of it. It's just a really bad free agency class. And so some teams have that idea of, hey, let's get a few players this year, and then we'll roll that money over to next year, and then we'll really be able to go crazy. So I think next free agency period could be the one where we're going, what in the world? This is funny money that's coming out of the league right now. And it already feels that way. But yeah, Von Miller, if he comes $5 million, like I said, 15 to 20 snaps a game, he could be very productive that way. He did that for the Bills. He was a lot more productive than people realize. But he was on a limited snap count. So you got to take all that into account, where he's probably not going to be a full-time starter anytime the rest of his career. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Von Miller. And I don't know if he's in a rush to sign anywhere right now. It does seem like, you got the Diggs news today, Russell Wilson as well. I can't believe we haven't talked about that yet. A 1 year, $10 million contract, I believe, is a number that can escalate up to $21 million with the New York Giants, and how that might impact the Giants after signing Jameis Winston recently as well. So now before they just had, Danny Cutlets, DeVito out there. Now they got Winston and Russell Wilson as well, man. Talk about some weird personalities out there in New York. What a quarterback room that is. My God.
Just think if they get Shedeur Sanders too, if they decide to go that path, those four in the quarterback room, I can't imagine those conversations. Russ going on one of his platitudes that he does. Jameis Winston in the corner just dancing and having a good time. I don't know if you saw him dancing in New York, the video of that.
New Orleans,
and then was it there? Okay. Yeah. And then Shedeur Sanders just in the corner with his Louis Vuitton bag and being like, what in the world?
Danny Cutlets doing the Italian touchdown dance. Yeah, absolutely. For those at home, imagine Italian hands. Michael Ronquillo, good to see you. Thank you so much. Ralph comes in and says, I get Nick live. Yippee. Oh, well, hello. MHH for life. My favorite draft memory is taking Demaryius Thomas over Dez and then Tebow a few picks later. What is your favorite draft memory? Favorite draft memory? Man, I am trying to think.
So I've got a couple while you think.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So I remember I was in Manhattan, Kansas during the 2011 draft, and I was sitting in a Buffalo Wild Wings with a few of my friends. And, it was one of the first times some of my friends were actually watching the draft. And so with the Broncos being the number 2 pick, they were like, who do you think the Broncos are going to take? And I was like, I really hope they take Von Miller, but I'm going to guess that they're going to take, what was his name? That Darius?
Marcel Darius, defensive tackle.
Yeah, Marcel Darius, yeah.
Yep.
I was like, and I like him, but I really think Von Miller could be that guy. I said, I don't know how they're going to use him. Just, we had Del Rio at that time, or was it? Del Rio. I
Yeah,
can't remember exactly. Yeah.
It was Del Rio.
And I was like, I don't know how they're going to use him, but that guy, I think he could be a real great player in the NFL. And then they took him, and all my friends, looked at me and were like, I don't know. And I'm like, I didn't actually call it. They had it in their mind that I called it somehow, that the Broncos were going to take Von Miller. So that was one. And then I'd say the first time of us really doing the live show and us all being together doing just, the 20 hours of grueling being live, talking about the draft. And I mean, it was an incredible time. I love that. I mean, I know it by the end of it, you're like worn out. And the next day I had to preach and I had like no voice. So about halfway through my sermon, I'm like, all right, I'm skipping like 2 pages of notes here. We're going to the end. And yeah, but it was worth it because it was a good time with all you guys.
Man, I think I can think of lowlights more than highlights. Paxton Lynch over Chris Jones in 2016, but also, I wouldn't have taken Bo Nix at 12 last year, so that was wrong on my part. So I guess my highlight, as lame as it is, but I was really excited for Denver to when they ended up taking Josie Jewell 6 years ago now, because I really like Josie at Iowa. He's one of my favorite players. Got to meet his family a few times up in Decorah, Iowa. His family ran a campground up there, and I was just happened to walk in. They were playing the Iowa State game on just a tiny screen, and these guys just watching it. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's like, oh, you a Hawkeye fan? Of course. He's like, Josie Jewell's my nephew. I'm like, oh shit. He's like, yeah, that's my brother. I'm like, oh, awesome. So yeah, big fan of Josie Jewell ever since the Iowa days, and was really happy to see him get drafted by the Broncos. Now, granted, that added a little bit of pressure too. It's like, oh man, if he flamed out elsewhere, it'd have been a bummer. But if he flames out on my team, it's going to hurt a lot. But did really like them drafting Josie Jewell. I mean, the Broncos stuff, I obviously cheer for the Broncos, but trying to be a objective analysis, I probably put that fan hat a little bit away a little bit more. I don't always love the everything's awesome all the time orange sunglasses analysis. I'd prefer objectivity if at all possible. We all have bias, I get it, but that made me put on a second Iowa hat. So happy to see him in Denver there and having success still in the league. He's one of the best players on that terrible Carolina defense last season, but he was making plays. So good player. That was a happy memory for sure. And just some of the earlier drafts that I remember I was mad as heck in that. God, it would have been the 20. Somebody in the chat's going to have to help me out with this one. 2008 draft, 2009 draft, when Denver had 2 first-round picks with Josh McDaniels. And I really wanted Brian Arakpo in that class. Really good edge rusher coming out of Texas. I thought he was going to be one of the best ones. And they ended up getting Robert Ayers, who was not a great pick for them there. And Noshan Marino, who I was excited about because I was already on the, do running backs matter that high? I don't know. But that was just some of the earlier memories of really paying attention to the draft. Actually, I got another one. Denver, when they traded up for Jay Cutler. That was awesome. That was exciting. Couldn't believe it. Nobody had any idea. Seeing that come across, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was watching with my buddy. We would have been in 6th grade. I'm like, they're trading up for Jay Cutler because they're obviously trading up for a quarterback. I was dialed in back then, kids. But that was a great one as well.
Yeah, I remember the Robert Ayers pick. My only good memory of him is when he danced over the top of Phillip Rivers.
Oh, not just the angry penguin.
Yeah, did a little mimic, yeah. That was my only really good memory of him. But no, I'm with you. I still remember the Jarvis Moss draft, and every one of his highlights came from one game. Was it the national championship?
I don't know.
Whatever bowl game they were in that year, where he had 4 sacks. That was all the highlights they showed, and I'm like, oh, man, I get it. He had one really great game. He's a good athlete, but I was just I don't think he's going to be a good player. And then I was right on that one. So that was the first time I was like, oh man, I got something right that somebody else got wrong. And I mean, given most of the time, if you say, hey, I don't think this player is going to be something, you're probably going to be right more than you're wrong.
Yeah. The haters were right. Great call by the haters. Not a hater. David Youngkin coming in here. They call it an X for a reason, talking about Von Miller. I just don't see Sean bringing him back except for a 1-day contract to retire. I don't know if he's ready to retire, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Doug agrees with him here. Good to see you. Gordon says, why not? Why not? Yeah, we'll see what happens there with that one. I want to keep saying hello to more folks coming in. Appreciate Chase Wellner coming in. BTB. Great to see you. Paul in the house. Hello. Hello to Paul. Hello, Ernie Mace. Hello, Nick Carl and Go Broncos Country Only. Bo Nix for 6. Absolutely. C. Chang says, I'm fine with a 1-year deal. It'd be okay. Dennis comes in with the Iowa logo. We already went down that Iowa Love earlier. He says, William, the signing of Ingram, I think it'd be a running back, defensive line, tight end. I don't know what he's responding to earlier there, but as far as the Broncos draft pick, defensive line, running back, tight end, I think wide receiver, even though Sean keeps putting it out there that, they're happy with the wide receivers. You're picking at 20. You might have a chance to get, what did you see? Diggs just got on the open market. Cortland Sutton last year of his contract. I would not, despite how much they're saying that like they're not going to take a wide receiver early, the board at 20, the board kind of dictates that. So I would also consider wide receiver in the list there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the more you see Sean Payton push against something, the more he's trying to like get you to look elsewhere, and then he's going to come back the other way. Like last year, it seemed like they were trying almost too hard to cover up their Bo Nix love, like talking about every other quarterback, like, oh yeah, JJ McCarthy, we kind of like him, and May, and all these kind of guys. He didn't really talk a whole lot about Bo Nix, and so that's why for me, sometimes when he's trying to get you to look one way, it's because he's doing a magic trick on the other side. And I still think wide receiver, as much as I love what Mims brought to the table, I think Franklin has at least a little bit. He's got a nice ability to go win over the top if he can catch it. We'll see if he can improve on that. And Vele, for a 7th rounder, like you could not have asked for more from a guy, a 7th round rookie wide receiver, than what he brought this past year. Now, maybe he takes a little bit more of a step, but if you can get a real number 2 to go along with Sutton on the other side, and then, you've got Ingram here in the middle, you got the makings of some great things that you can do. And there's some, I'm coming around on this wide receiver class for this draft. I don't love them. There's nobody that I'm going to be like pounding the table being like, that's going to be the guy. But there's some of them that I'm like, yeah, I could see how they'd fit really well with how Sean Payton likes to use his wide receivers. There's a couple big guys that can be a big slot. They can go win with a slant route. They can go win with a deep end that he loves to run. Can win a couple of those jump balls, and especially goal line situations. Like, he loves all those things about a wide receiver, and there's a few of them. So, like I said, I think there's a decent chance in the first 3 rounds that we see a wide receiver taken for the Broncos.
Yeah, we'll see. Just a weapons we'll see, and defensive line reinforcements. We got Daniel Berry Sports saying sup to you. Samantha saying it's 82 in Florida. Ugh, makes my skin crawl. I'm not good with the heat, man, especially the humidity, the bugs. I'm soft now. The Pacific Northwest made me real soft. Todd in the house. Great to see you, Todd. Hope you're doing well. I think you did get Ralph already. Good to see you, Ralph. Giants playing Denver this year, says Shiloh. That'll be a lot of fun. That's great. Sam talking about Von Miller, says he's a great locker room guy, but he does have issues with may influence this young team in a bad way. Von Miller's had some issues with cops and ex-girlfriends in the past. And, he works hard, but he's a different guy all the same. That's the thing. I just don't know, is like bringing too much of like the old gang back together. This is Sean Payton's team now, and he's empowering Bo Nix. Now, granted, he hasn't totally ran away all of the old guard, right? Like Cortland Sutton is still here. Garrett Bowles got a new contract, is still here. So there's valuable guys they are keeping. But this is a new ownership, new image, new team. That's Von Miller's a multiple chapters now in the past for this Broncos team. So again, it's about closing the gap at the end of the day. But I do think, I don't know Von Miller personally. Obviously you can search Von Miller police in the past, and there's been things, but that's I don't know if it would influence the team in a bad way or not. I don't know where he's at in his life and all the stuff with that.
Yeah, like I said, he's a good locker room guy. Like, players love him.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches usually love him. He just has this one little thing that, like I said, it's not a little thing because it is an issue. But personality-wise, he's not going to be a guy that distracts from the locker room. Mm-hmm. So I don't, like I said, I don't mind the signing depending on how much it's going to cost. Like, you better have a contract that's in line with what you expect him to be. And talking about something really good happening here, we got Clayton coming in saying, getting married tomorrow, fellas. Congrats, Clayton, from building the Broncos. I hope it is a day that will stick with you forever, you and your wife. And I just, I hope it's one of those, like I said, just great moments for you.
You're in one of Carl's favorite cities.
There you go.
Vegas as well. So congrats, Clayton. That's awesome. Have a lot of fun. Try to be present and don't sweat the little things. The day will happen and, think something will get off, but that's okay. Just be present, enjoy it, and appreciate it for what it is. Phil coming in here says, good evening, everybody. I see we are bringing in Texas running back Jaden Blue for a visit. How high would you rank him? Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. So Jaden Blue, not much of a runner as a running back. Now, there are some great highlights as well, but really where he brings value is as a pass catcher. He had a lot of snaps, flexed out to slot, movement there, and he ran at the pro day. I think at the combine, he was like a 4.36 guy, which is a little disappointing for how fast he looked on tape. And I think at the pro day, they had him clocked at 4.28, 4.25. So let's just call it a low 4.3. Why not? That's still blazing fast. The issue with Jaden Blue is that he fumbles the ball like crazy at Texas. It's like a crazy amount of fumbles. So how early would I take him? He's super fast. Him and Tootin, both, I think, round 4 for me. If they took him round 3, I'd get it. I'd be a little. There's just so many running backs. It's hard. Somebody I like is going to be there round 4. So why would I not wait until I get the last of that tier, right? Or move up to get the last of that tier versus starting that run personally, unless there's a guy that they just identify that they have to have. I don't meet these guys personally. I don't know what Sean exactly wants to do, so I can't do that. But I mean, there was a clip that Chad had clipped out earlier of all these running backs round 4. It's like name. So Jaden Blue's another one in that late round 3, round 4 range for me that I'd be happy to have in Denver. Definitely an electric player.
Yeah, I think our friend Eric was talking about him a little bit earlier. It's a fumble once every 30 touches, which of all players that have been drafted of recent history, the highest fumble rate of anybody just even drafted. And it was a 7th rounder. It was once every 42 touches.
Yeah. So
this would be, it's going to be trying to remember who the player was for the Broncos. Oh my gosh, why am I'm spacing on names today, but back in 2012, our punt returner, who was
Trenton
just
Holiday.
electric. Yeah, Trenton Holiday. There you go. It was either going to be a touchdown or he was going to fumble it. There really wasn't much in between those two things. And, if he scored a touchdown, it was going to be a great game, but he could also cost you the game. And so that's the thing you got to take with Blue is he could win you a couple games, but he also might be the reason that you lose something too. And a lot of coaches, they shy away from that as much as they can. They're risk averse in most situations. So we got Cody W coming in with another $5 super chat here saying, with Ingram coming in, I see him taking away at least a good 40 to 50 catches that would be given to our wide receivers in years before. I like what we got at wide receiver. I definitely get that mentality. That he's really almost like our number 2 wide receiver now. He's our number 2 target, I guess, number 2 weapon, however you want to say that. And so Vele being your number 3 or number 4, depending on how you rank Mims, you can live with that kind of thing. So I definitely get that. I still think the more weapons you can add to this offense, the more versatile you can get yourself, just the easier it is for Sean Payton to mix and match, because he's one of those guys. He loves to change formations almost every single play. He wants different body types out there depending on the situation, and making teams have to game plan for, we got 2 6'4" receivers out there. Now you've got a 5'10" speedster running down the field. You just have to be able to prepare for that, and it takes a lot. So I think if you could add, a Tedero McMillan, Jaden Higgins kind of guy to this offense, it really changes how a defense has to game plan for you.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of saw them want to do that last season as well with Josh Reynolds, in theory, right? Bringing him in, another big body guy who can do a little bit of big slot and Z. Even little Jordan Humphrey was your 2nd highest snap count player out of your wide receivers last season. So I don't know about at least 40 to 50 catches that would go to wide receivers, because you also have to figure out where some of these Javonte Williams targets are going right now. I mean, Javonte Williams was your number 2 leading target getter last season at 68. Cortland Sutton with 141. So maybe hopefully you're taking away a little bit from Sutton there as far as the target rate. And the point isn't for volume, it's for efficiency. But then if they have a little bit less, but they're more efficient, that's all the better for the functionality of the offense. But we'll see. The other thing with Ingram is he's, had some injuries, a lot of lower body injuries, and coming off a torn labrum surgery, I believe, as well, if I'm not mistaken on that. So we'll see what happens there with Ingram, but certainly another weapon that's very, very needed. We got Sam again saying, I love Vaughn, but just don't see it happening. Well, what does Vaughn think here? We got Vaughn talking with the one and only fantastic Kay Adams, and let's hear what, hopefully.
I'm with Brandon McManus.
Okay.
Can you hear that?
Oh, he's like the
Just a
star.
little.
Yeah, and Cortland Sutton.
Okay.
So all former Bronco guys. We've all been on the golf course before together. And now we're here in Cancun, Maricopa, getting it done.
Broncos guys. How's that?
It's great. It's great. I love the Denver Broncos, and it's just able to ride around and be back on the team again. It's a fun day.
Would you like to be a part of the actual Broncos?
I mean, you just had to see.
This color has always looked good on you. You know.
I've always loved blue and orange. You just had to see. It's a fun time right now for me and my career, and you just had to wait and see. Take it one day at a time and just have fun and just wait and see.
What is fun about it? You like the?
I think the excitement of not knowing what's next has a sense of. It could also be scary too, but
I would think that fun would not be the word.
I'm not in my perception. I don't frame it like that. I've done everything I could possibly do, and whatever's next for me is what's next. And it's fun. It's exciting. You're looking at new teams and new quarterbacks. You can never replace a Josh Allen in the season that he had. But new quarterbacks, new environments, and just a new place to be is fun.
Yeah, so you heard it there. He's coming back. No, I think that Von Miller is being open to any and all possibilities there. Playing at Coy, I mean, I think he would love to come back to Denver. He has a lot of love for this team, and also, I mean, the Broncos' #1 defense in the NFL, top 5 defense last year, broke an all-time sack record, despite having that 2015 Super Bowl was, or the pairings with Von Miller and Chubb. I mean, of course, especially with how blitz-centric the front is, he's going to have an opportunity if he came to Denver to pin his ears back, even if it wasn't a rotational role. With all that said, though, I don't know if the resource allocation makes sense for the Broncos as it stands prior to the draft. I think that maybe you talk about if the draft comes and goes and they're like interested in maybe adding another edge to the room and that bypasses, they don't bring one in, maybe you circle back to Von Miller at that point. But as it stands, I do not think that, unless what we talked about earlier, 1 year, $5 million, like that's not terrible. But I think he's probably going to be able to get more than that from a team with a little bit more pockets and desperation.
Or at least have more incentives built into the contract.
Yeah.
Maybe it is a 1 year, $5 million, but for every game he plays, for however many sacks he gets, however far the team goes, all those kind of incentives that they can build into it to get him closer to the, 15 million kind of thing. That they just did that with Russell Wilson. Kind of. Yeah. So it's a lot of those aging veterans. A lot of times that's how you get them on board. They still get to save a little bit of face with, hey, it's still a 1 year, $15 million contract. When the team's kind of looking at it as it's 1 year, $5 million. If it ends up great, it ends up great for us. Like, it means probably good success because he's out there doing something good for us. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not completely against it, but I'm with you. I'd probably wait till after the draft. This is a decent edge class. Mm-hmm. There might be a guy that falls to you in the first round that you're going, we got to take this. Like, I like our edge room, but it doesn't mean that I'm still not looking to upgrade at some point. If Michael Williams falls to us there, I like him. I know he didn't have great film this last year, but he was hurt, pretty much playing on one leg, and still holding well at the edge. He's got something that the edge room doesn't have right now. He's got a decent size. I think he's like 275.
He's got crazy length.
Yeah.
As well. Reminds me a lot of DeMarcus Lawrence. Dallas. Yep. At his heyday. Who would have been a first rounder if we knew what he'd turned into. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So like I said, if somebody falls like that to 20, let's say the top 2 tight ends are gone, the top 2 running backs are gone, a couple of your defensive tackles that you really like are gone, and he's sitting there, you're kind of going, okay. I mean, I know it's a little bit of a luxury pick, But at the same time, it's not completely a luxury because it's such an important position.
Mm-hmm.
And you got Bonito. You don't know, are you signing him long term or are you not?
Yeah.
You know, Cooper, he's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I would guess the Broncos, if they had an opportunity to upgrade over him, they would have no issue moving on from him either.
Yeah.
You know, I think they like him, but they don't love him.
One thing also about Walker is that he played a lot of 4-eye at Georgia as well, which is a little frustrating because I don't think that's always his best case as a player. I think he's more of a classic, 7 tech, 6 tech, whatever you want to place him as. But he can play 4-eye with the length, and he holds up pretty well against double teams as well. I mean, just for the size, the profile, he can forklift guys. So good player, no doubt. He's an interesting one. Definitely have to be a conversation if he fell to 20. We got Pearl coming in here. Good to see you, Pearl. Always great to hear from you. Yeah, Darren's going down memory lane too. Says Jarvis is a physical specimen. Looked like a man amongst boys in training camp. I see where they got enamored with him. Yeah, I don't know. That was a little bit before I was like totally dialed into hearing everything going on in Denver. But I don't know if it was a work ethic thing or just classic case of not more. Looks like Tarzan plays like Jane. I don't know. What do you think?
I just remember reading the Denver Post articles during the early parts of training camp or the mandatory mini camp, where before you got pads on.
Mm-hmm.
And they would just be going, oh my gosh, this guy is dominating everybody. He is so much faster than everybody. And like, they would just be hyping him up. Like, this is the year he's finally going to emerge. And he just could never quite take that next step. Like, he was just a really good athlete, not a great football player. And that just unfortunately does happen sometimes that I remember John Elway did that a few times where he took an athlete hoping that the coaches could turn him into a football player. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
Yeah. If you're taking that kind of guy, they have to have incredible work ethic and a good head on their shoulders. But it definitely, first in the gym, last out kind of guy that really wants to work on the game and love the game. If there's somebody who's, great athlete, but football isn't really like, what they wake up and think about and what they think about when they go to bed, then I don't know if I want to bet on that guy at the end of the day. But, those teams have crazy resources to put in that private investigator work. So they typically make more well-informed decisions than what we have access to, and they still get it wrong. So it's hard, man. It's hard. Cody W. Again, Cody coming in. I think this might be the hat trick. He says, let's say the Cowboys give you a call, offer you a first for Cortland. Are you taking it? And who's the pick at 12? Yeah, you take Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton's off your hands for the 12th overall selection. I know this is a down draft class, but for a going to be 30-year-old wide receiver that you're going to have to probably pay 28 million a year. That's, you can reset the contract there and figure it out elsewhere. I mean, just for the trade chip. I mean, I think you run with that, and that's not liking Cortland Sutton. Cortland's an incredible player, and you're going to be in a weird situation if you didn't have Cortland after the offseason passed, because like we talked about, I mean, he had 140 freaking targets this last season. And Javonte Williams had 66, I think was the next highest. So you'd have to figure something out there. But first overall pick, reset the contract. You'd have a chance to trade down there or take a wide receiver at 20 then if you liked one. I think you'd definitely take that.
Yeah, like I said, when you can reset a position, get that cheaper contract, and a guy that's probably on the downhill part of his career, maybe another couple years of really productive. I'm not saying he can't be still productive. I'm just saying you don't see a player all of a sudden emerge at 30 and all of a sudden become the number one wide receiver. So if you can get a first round pick for him, I mean, I think if a team offered a mid-second round pick, it would be hard to pass on that. Just because, again, big contract guy that's probably, this might be his last year with the Broncos. If you're getting a second round pick and you could help figure it out. And like I said, there's a few wide receivers that I do like at pick 12. I probably would take McMillan. I would feel pretty darn good about that. I think he can be a good number one. I don't think he'll be 5 wide receiver in football kind of guy. I just think he lacks some of that elite athleticism that you see with like a Jamar Chase, a Justin Jefferson, those kind of guys. But I think he could be in that next tier that you feel really good about. I know before T. Higgins signed back with the the Bengals. A lot of people were kind of talking, hey, Broncos, go get him. Most people are kind of comparing McMillan to T. Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got a healthy T. Higgins, that's a 1,000-yard receiver. And if you get him on a rookie contract, that's not a bad way to go. So, yes, I would take this deal.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to offer that. I don't think even Bills 30 overall, whatever, would probably offer that. But that'd be a good one for Denver. We got Michael Latsky coming in here. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you down there in Puerto Rico. And so back to Von Miller here. So the Broncos, I'd be okay with Von Miller. And one caveat to Von Miller, since he was released, he does not count towards the compensatory pick formula. And the Broncos are set for the first time in, I think, the longest streak of any team in the NFL to receive a compensatory pick. Now, maybe that changed after the Russell Wilson signing. I think Diggs was, because his contract was reworked, he doesn't count towards the formula, but Russell Wilson does. So Denver had one of the last 3 compensatory picks for losing punter. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Colquitt? No, that's not Colquitt. Who was the punter last year?
Riley Dixon.
Yeah, we help each other. There we go. I remember the ones from 2008 or whatever. You can get Riley Dixon. But the Broncos right now are set to get a compensatory pick. But so maybe they're trying to wait out for some of these guys so they don't lose that. I mean, how much does a 7th round compensatory pick matter? You might be able to flip that for somebody else or just like a special teams guy. I don't know how much it matters, but it's another pick that you can toss around for trading round 3 for a guy that you value, all the same. So Denver's in line to get one right now, according to the projections. If they sign Von Miller, it wouldn't count because he's a street free agent. He was released. But somebody like J.K. Dobbins, somebody like Calais Campbell, maybe there's other veterans out there, cornerback or something that you might be interested in just for depth. As long as they weren't getting over, I think, $3.25 million per year, you probably are safe protecting that pick. But anything more, you're probably losing that compensatory pick. And again, it's a 7th round comp pick. Is that going to keep you from adding a player? Probably not. But it is nice to have that potentially coming your way next season, just as another asset.
Right. Well, and the nice thing is Broncos can wait. I don't think anybody's, kicking down the door to trying to get to a lot of these free agents right now. Yeah. Maybe Amari Cooper, you might have a few teams still trying to talk to him. There's a few other free agents out there, but for the most part, a lot of these guys are going to get signed after the draft. And at that point, they don't count against the compensatory pick formula. So, the Broncos, they can wait, get that 7th rounder, and still probably get a couple of those guys if they really want to go that direction. I don't see somebody signing J.K. Dobbins with how great this running back class is. They're going to wait and see, hey, okay, if we didn't get the guy we were hoping for, maybe then we go back to the veteran. Broncos could be in that boat as one of those teams that are kind of that mindset of, hey, if we miss out on Omari and Hampton in the 1st round and we need a little bit more of a tough guy in between the tackles that we can go out there and trust, then we go sign J.K. Dobbins. Otherwise, we just wait.
And I think it makes sense to wait. And why does waiting matter as far as the compensatory picks go? The Monday following the NFL draft, anybody that you sign does not count to the compensatory picks anymore. So teams like the Ravens have done that for a number of years to protect their comp picks. They signed a street free agent today, somebody who was released. So guess what? I think it was Chidobe Awuzie who was released. So not counting to the comp picks, they're going to get all theirs. And that does matter. Again, at the end of the day, another guy, cost control, practice squad, somebody to develop. I mean, was it the second to last pick in the draft? And I think it was a comp pick. Alex Forsythe on this team, which, frustrating for that Chiefs game as well, but still a valuable piece for you're paying nothing for that. You don't have to spend a veteran contract on that's developmental. I mean, he could end up being the Broncos starting center in 2026 if they let Wattenberg go. So those pieces do matter. They are die casts, right? Maybe some of those, like, what is the nerd game, Dungeons and Dragons, with like all the things on it. Sorry, I'm a nerd too. But not high probability, but still value to get. And if I had my druthers, though, talking about where the Broncos could spend money instead, Von Miller would be great. I get it. I like the depth of the room. I'd rather get a young player if the value falls to you in the draft, just like the long-term perspective, than Von Miller. But guys I would be interested in, you mentioned J.K. Dobbins earlier. I would love to just bring somebody in for the floor of the room and talk about another low-risk, high-reward player that's not going to cost a lot, like Nick Chubb. I know he's still out there. I don't know what the medical situation is. He didn't look great last season, but like a contract where like if you bring him in and he's not healthy enough, you cut him. Okay, really no harm, no foul. I think that's the type of contract you're talking about for somebody like Nick Chubb right now. We'll see. The other one who maybe it's just me, playing fantasy out here, who I loved for years and years and years that I would kill for in Denver is Calais Campbell. I know that Denver they're already, not older, but veteran at the 4-eye technique spot of the room. I think it's more likely they're going to draft a guy there, but Campbell's going to be 38, 39 years old. He's still awesome. I mean, he's still so good. And you talk about a rotational guy who can play across the line of scrimmage with all those guys, somebody to help eat into the unbelievable, probably unsustainable snap volume that Zach Allen had last season. I would be, out of all the free agents left besides the running backs, Calais Campbell is the one that interests me by far the most.
I remember when he was hitting free agency last time and like the Broncos were bidding on him, they got close.
That was many times ago, Carl. That was
okay. Sorry, you're right. But when they were like really serious, and it was between them and Jacksonville. Yeah. And like he was ready to sign with the Broncos. Then his wife came in, was like, "Nope, I'd rather live in Jacksonville." And I was at the Denver Zoo with my wife and daughter, and like I'm getting messages from all of you guys being like, "Oh, it's getting close," and so I had to tell my family like, "Hey, give me a second. This is getting really close." And I just, because I've loved him too. He's been just an incredible pro everywhere he's gone. And then when I finally saw that he'd signed with Jacksonville, like I just sat in my vehicle for a second. Like I don't usually let that stuff get me emotional. It's like, well, that's another player. Like it happens. But that was one of them that actually I got emotional that the Broncos missed out on. Yeah. And so if he could come in, like I said, for 1-year contract, he is still productive. I think that's the other thing with Vaughn. I know some people are like, hey, this is all nostalgia. He's still actually a decent player. Like, yes, he's not 2012 to 2015 Von Miller, but he is still actually on a limited basis, can still go get after the quarterback, for the Bills in the playoffs. Like he had a couple really nice games for them where he was making a lot of plays. So I don't think it's all nostalgia. Yes, that's part of it. But there's still some production that can come out of him.
Yeah. I mean, if they brought him back for relatively cheap, they got the ability to do that. I think they'll probably wait until after the draft, unless you're talking about like a pretty cheap, cornerback, some depth there, maybe another body at wide receiver, still just, add to the floor of the room, add some competition. But you're talking about, let's call it what it is, like roster filler. At that point, like your Levi Wallace's of the world, like let's get a veteran in here just in case, and that can, we know how that goes most of the time, especially at cornerback. But old cornerbacks, man, they are not something to invest in. But that's probably the most, people talk about running back cliffs, and that's rough too. But the cornerback cliff is like, ouch. That is a cliff. That's a Mariana Trench. But yeah, Von Miller again. You guys kind of in the chat. It's yes or no. Let us know what you think. I'm lukewarm on it again, and I probably have the same type of temperament about it as Von did. Oh yeah, that'd be great. It's exciting and but also kind of nerve wracking. We'll see what happens there. It's a fun process. I love the blue and orange. That's the same, Von. I would love you back in the blue and orange, but not really a priority at this point. Right now, all eyes on the draft and maybe some filler pieces here and there. Outside of maybe running back and again, Calais Campbell. Yeah, Denver native. Let's close it out. Born and raised Denver. That'd be a great one.
Yeah, I'm good with that one. I'm good with the Broncos staying pat where they are too right now on all positions. I really do like this roster. I think they're in a good place. Add a couple pieces in the draft. I still think they're about 4 or 5 pieces away from being a true Super Bowl contender. And I don't think this rookie class is going to be that, get them over the hump, day one, maybe next year or next season, that could be who they are. But that's kind of part of the building process. It does. It takes a couple years and you're still recovering from the Russell Wilson contract. Finally, this is our last year of having to even have his name attached to the Broncos of any kind of sentiment. So that'll be nice when we get all of our money finally available to us. And I really think 2026 is where the Broncos take that big leap into being the true contenders. Not saying they can't do it this year. I mean, they surprised everybody going 10-7, making the playoffs this year. When you had PFF and ESPN being like, oh, this is one of the 3 worst rosters in football. And they shocked everybody, proving that wasn't true. Now, a lot of those websites are like, oh, yeah, Broncos top 10 roster. It's crazy how quickly things can change that way. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I hope I'm wrong on that. But like I said, I think it's just that little bit of a building process. And this rookie class in year 2 of it could really be that big difference.
Yeah, I'll push back just a tiny bit. I think if they hit an absolute home run on the running back position, if there's any position that is ready to hit the ground running when they come in, and you typically know if you have a guy or not, one reason that I'm not counting on Audric Estime is the running back spot. And so if Genty falls to 20, or let's say 17 and a slight trade up, that's one that I think changes. Or you absolutely just, let's say DJ Giddens, you hit him in the 3rd round and he ends up being the best running back in the class. I mean, there's a possibility. And we all love Genty, Hampton, the Henderson, but this class is so deep that I wouldn't be shocked at all if the best 2 running backs in this class end up being guys who go round 2, day 2, day 3. It's that talented, that deep. So hitting home run on the running back class, I think can change it just given the reality of how that position plays right away for the most part for the guys who are actually good in the league. And I'm not going to put a cap on them being a Super Bowl contender or not, because I want to see what Bo Nix looks like. How much Bo Nix improves. If let's lowball it. Let's say he was the 18th best quarterback in football last season. If he rises to the 10th best quarterback, that changes things almost as much as like going from an F room at running back to an A room at running back. That just 8 spots there. So I'm not going to put a cap on them. You get in, anything can happen. I think the Chiefs are also vulnerable right now as well. So you got a chance to win the division and host a playoff game. So again, I'm going to probably have Denver, 10th, 11th in the league, but a lot of young players. And if the big wild card is just how much Bo Nix can improve, will he regress? CJ Stroud year 2 wise? I don't know. I trust Sean Payton. Can they stay as healthy as they were last year? We'll see. But I'm not going to put a cap on them either. I did that last season and I look damn foolish. So I'm trusting Sean Payton and still wait and see on it. But I don't think I want to see what it looks like because if Bo Nix takes a step, anything's on the table.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. And like I said, I'm trying to speak as much in the logical part of my brain as I can. Yeah. But you're right. If a couple things go their way with Bo Nix taking a huge leap forward, and it doesn't even have to be huge. I think it's just a good leap forward. And you're right. They could be right there and just competing in ways we never thought possible. If the guys that they added on defense get back to their all-pro level on top of what you've already had from last season, and those guys stay the same, you could have one of the more dominant defenses that we've seen in a while in the league. So there's definitely a lot of ways that the Broncos could get to that place of everybody going, okay, this is a team. Like nobody wants to play them in the playoffs. They could really, like I said, once you get in, you never know what could happen. I still, and I hate to bring this up, but like the 2012 season, the Broncos were so dominant for so long that I just, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know how anybody could ever beat this team because they won like 11 straight games by 7 points or more. It was one of the most dominant teams I've seen since like the 2007 Patriots. Once they got on that streak, and then they had that one bad game in the playoffs. And all of a sudden, Baltimore got hot at the right time and went and won. The Giants, they're 2 Super Bowls. I don't think anybody picked them to be the Super Bowl champ. And all of a sudden, here they go. So you're right. As long as you get in, anything can happen.
Yeah. Yep. It's really going to come down to, can they nail the running back spot, which they're going to have ample opportunity to do so in the draft. Even if they don't take one in the first 2 rounds, they'll have an opportunity to do that. And how much of a step Bo Nix can take. But can they also stay healthy? I know 2 years ago, number 1 healthiest team in football. Last year, I think the 2nd most healthy. That can change things. But we're about to wrap it up here. But first, DW coming in says, hey, gents, you're doing a great job. I just got in, so not sure what you've said. We all know that running back's priority. Who's the running back in the draft that's going to be the absolute best for Bo and the offense, and why? Also, take 2 running backs in the draft. Yes, take 2 running backs in the draft. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat here. Also, there we go. We did it. The best running back in the draft for Bo is probably Genty. Is Genty going to be there? I don't know. I don't think so, but you never know. After that, I mean, good luck. Hampton would be great. I'd be happy with Judkins or Henderson as well. I love Martinez at Miami. I think Giddens is a heck of a back. See some Neil talk in the chat. Jaden Blue, we talked about him already earlier. I mean, Tuchin is unbelievably explosive. The Broncos met with Ollie Gordon as well. I mean, round 6 is an option for him. People are really sleeping on Sanders out at South Carolina and Jarquez Hunter at Auburn. I mean, we can just go. I'm sure I'm forgetting people. It's an unbelievable running back class.
Yeah.
But at the top, I mean, I do think Genty stands alone. So he'd be the one who would help the most. But after that, I mean, do I prefer taking Hampton at 20 versus, let's say, Martinez at 40 and, or, I don't know, trade up for Tutin or Blue or something else later? I might rather do that. So it's an incredible class. It's going to be really unfortunate if they come out with misevaluations at the position because there's going to be ample difference makers added in this class to different teams.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was what team was? I think it was the Patriots when they took N'Keal Harry.
Yeah,
and that whole wide receiver class in the first and second round were like complete all-stars except for him.
Yep.
You don't want to be that one team that everybody's going, oh my gosh, what were you thinking? So yeah, Broncos, and that's why I'm with you, where you want to take a couple chances at the running back position. You're going to think that at least one of them is going to be able to hit the ground running for you and be something great in the NFL. So DW, thank you for that comment. Love when we see that color come up, and it's very humbling to see it. And here, the orange color coming in with Gary Palmer. Gary, good to see you. And says, hey, Nick and Carl in Broncos country. Thanks for a fun and informative show. Agree about Vaughn with you and possible wide receiver pick, but running back is a need. Go Broncos. Yeah, I think our whole thing that we've been saying for a lot of shows, like we know running back is a huge, huge need. It's just a matter of is it because it's such a deep position, do you have to go at running back at 20? Or can you wait 51 or maybe trade up in the second or trade back from 20 and still feel really good about the position? I think you can. Like I said, there's just so many names that we could name off here and go, yeah, this is what they can do. This is how they're great. This is how they'd fit in the offense. You know, this is what they were able to do in college. And it's just one of those special classes that you look at. And I'm going to guess here in, 10 years, we're going to look back at this running back class and say, hey, this really changed the NFL landscape with how many good running backs were added to teams.
Yeah. Shout out to the dynasty owners who have been stockpiling picks for this upcoming season, because you're going to get some running backs and potentially tight ends as well. Thank you. And we got our last one here. Naj saying, hey, brothers, appreciate you. Go Broncos. Appreciate you as well. I see our guy Mike coming in here. Love the show. Good job, guys. Appreciate you, Mike. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, it was a lot of fun today. Talked about Von Miller, a lot of free agent options, got a little bit into the draft. Next week, we'll go way more into the draft. I mean, we're in the last month here, so want to at least run a mock with Carl, of course, as well. Yeah, big shout out to our guy, the Energy Master, Naj, as well, coming in. One of the highlights of always great to see you, Carl, and Chad, and Eric, and everybody. Seeing Naj at the meet and greet is always one of the ultimate highlights as well. He's so much fun to talk to. Doing the show afterwards as well. Good job minding your manners with the language there, Naj. I think you didn't cuss at all on this year, so which is hard for me half of the time. But a lot of fun energy, and appreciate you, Naj.
Yeah, I still remember being there for the Green Bay game, and Naj showed up, and like all of us before he showed up, we're like, man, Broncos, they just suck this year. We might have the number 1 pick by the end of all of this, and then Naj shows up. He's like, I think we're going to win today. I'm feeling really, and he's just pumping us all up. And by the end of it, like all of us were ready to like go charging into the stadium and take on the Packers ourselves. We would have lasted one play, but still having Naj there to pump us all up, it was great to see, and appreciate that, Naj, and always appreciate the energy you bring to the chat as well.
Yeah, appreciate you, Naj. Appreciate everyone coming in today. A lot of fun. Denver's going to have a chance to add running back. We'll see what happens with Von Miller. Right now, the final thing, Carl. Von Miller back in the Broncos, yes or no?
At this time, no. That's where I'm going to be. One, I need to see a contract. 2, I need to see what they do in the draft before I'd ever make a decision like that. And hey, we got DW coming back in again. Man, just making this a crazy show. Thank you so much with the $50 super chat. oh man, this is what a way to close out the evening.
Yeah,
I had a beautiful day out. Now I got all this going on. And he says, I'd rather trade back, get an extra pick in, say, round 3. The draft is so solid in day 2 picks. Also, would love to see Vaughn back at a minimal contract simply because he can still play and what he brings as a vet. Also, he's Broncos through and through. Yeah, you got to love. I mean, Vaughn, since he left, every chance he gets, like he'll be talking about his new team, be like, but the Broncos, man, I still, that's where my heart is. And so to see him have such a love for this city, for these fans, for us as fans, all that, it's great to see. And I'm with you, DW. Like I want as many arrows to shoot at the dartboard in the middle of day 2. I would love that. I think that's where the heart of this draft really is.
I mean, it always
getting more of those guys. Go ahead.
I was going to say it always depends on what the value is in return, right, and who's there on the board at the end. But yeah, and I would be happy to move back. And let's say you move back to 30, get the Bills another second round pick, you send them back your 4th or something. I think a lot of the value is a lot of value of this class probably picks 50 to 80 overall. So it'd be a lot of fun. As far as Vaughn being back, we totally agree with you, DW. Bring him back and short contract, that'd be great. But will he get that? Right now, I think probably he's going to get more value from somebody else elsewhere.
For sure. So thank you again, DW, for both those super chats and everybody else coming in. I'll let Nick close out the show, but I just want to say it's been a great evening with all of you and loved all this talk. Even, I know Vaughn, like I said, his best days are behind him, but it's still, he brings back some of the greatest memories I've had as a Bronco fan, watching him in Super Bowl 50. It's that first play to go and get that strip sack for the Broncos. I guess it wasn't the first play, first defensive play. I will never forget that. And I still watch that with my kids sometimes. And they talk about it. And I've got Von Miller jerseys for all my kids. So he's been near and dear to my heart as a Bronco fan. So would love to see him back, not just because of that, but that is part of it.
Yeah. Oh, man, it'd be fun. I could bust out the jersey again. That's the last Bronco jersey I got. So that'd be a lot of fun. Appreciate everyone today. I mean, gosh, so many big super chats coming in here. David Mickelrath, Cody W. a few times. I saw Shiloh hanging out. Hope you're having fun, Shiloh. Good to see you in here, picking up the dog. Michael Ronquillo, Ralph coming in as well. Of course, Gary Palmer. Big super chats coming in. We appreciate all of them, but man, 1999 Flash and Orange there. Naj as well, the 1999 and the 2 from DW, $50. My goodness, I don't even know what to say. Thank you. Make sure you guys are following Carl and I on Twitter. Carl's at Carl Dumler MHH. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, we're over at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as that ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Make sure you guys check out Underdog. Use our code MHuddle. And we'll see you guys again next week. But until then, choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.